All right, everyone, welcome back to the 7-5 Corrupt Cops Who've Crossed the Line. Check out the description below for links to my book, Betrayal in Blue, the shocking memoir of the scandal that rocked the NYPD. There's also links to merchandise, social media, things like that. All right, first story. It's not too much of subscribe. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell. Almost at 1,000. I think we're like 4 subscribers away. So let's get that done. Gmail account, that's all you need. Hit subscribe. There's like, out of all the people that watch, I think it's 5%, 10% that are subscribers. The rest are people that aren't subscribed that watch the channel. So if you're watching the channel, hit subscribe. All right, first story. It's not a heavy corruption or anything like that, but it is about a cop that was arrested. These stories come up all the time. It's about a cop who was arrested for DUI. I usually don't do it because there's so many of them now, that and assaults and things like that. I don't do those stories. I try to do the heavier corruption stories. The only reason I'm doing this one, because there's a little twist on it. First of all, it's an older story. It goes back to 2011. Philadelphia, his 7-year veteran. His name was William Haviland. He was arrested for DUI, but on duty, in uniform, in a marked patrol car. So that's a little different than the usual DUIs, where cops are arrested off-duty DUI. I think this goes back a while, and it was his second arrest also. He was arrested in 2009 for DUI off duty. Didn't lose his job. He got suspended, didn't lose his job. I've talked about this before. When cops are suspected of drinking or being alcoholics, things like that, that's not criminal. So they usually check themselves into what in the NYPD is called the farm. It's basically an alcohol rehabilitation program. And you go in there, you dry out, you get cleaned up, and you come back on the job. It probably doesn't work if you're arrested. And normally guys will check themselves in when there's a suspicion of them being arrested on something else, and they'll claim that. My partner had done it. I spoke about that in a previous video. So he was arrested in 2009, the first time, off duty, DUI. Don't know why he wasn't fired, but he ended up coming back to work. In the 2011 incident, he was in a bar drinking on duty in uniform, much like what we did in the 80s. I mean, we drank in bodegas, we drank in Auto Sound City, Barron Shop, we drank in the patrol car, we drank in bars, we drank in Bailey's Bar. That was in the 7-5. I spoke about that place. It was owned by a housing cop and his wife, in full uniform. And I drank there long prior to hooking up with my partner. One of my first partners took me there, and we went in uniform and drank. I had a couple of beers and I went back out on patrol. Totally out of control. Oh man, my voice. So this guy was arrested the second time, full uniform. Did the breathalyzer, whole thing. Didn't say how high the breathalyzer he blew on, but he was arrested for the DUI, so it was over to 0.08. I guess anything under, they would have suspended him again and sent him to some type of rehabilitation. He was obviously immediately suspended, and with the intention to dismiss him. There was no outcome. I couldn't find an outcome. I only found the original story on it. All right. The second story is, so that was interesting because it was an on-duty thing. That's why I included that. Second story is also Philadelphia cops, and this goes back to 2010. Much like my ex-partner and I were doing. They were working with drug dealers, and this drug dealer they were working with was giving them information on other drug dealers where they would go in and rob the cash and drugs from this guy. This drug dealer, his name was, I should remember because it's a TV character too. I wrote it down somewhere. I don't know. I'll get to it as I tell the story. I'll remember it. All right. So it was 10 years ago, 11 years now. This is 2021, 2010. It was a 10-year vet, Sean Oliveira, 31, and Christopher Luciano. He was on the job for 3 years. They were charged with robbery, kidnapping, stealing money and drugs, conspiracy. I mean, all types of shit. And basically, what they were doing was robbing drug dealers of their cash and drugs, and putting the drugs back out on the street, splitting up the cash. And it all came from, got it now, I remember. All came from a current drug dealer they were working with. His name was Aaron Harris, correct? I think somewhere it's up there. And he was setting up his competition, other drug dealers, and then splitting the cash with these two cops. Somewhere along the line, Aaron Harris either got arrested by other cops or he grew a conscience. Most likely he was, it didn't say why he flipped, but he ended up going to Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs set him up with an undercover cop, and they set up a sting on these two active cops, Oliveira and Luciano. And Harris introduced these two cops to the undercover cop as a drug dealer that they're going to rip off and rob his money. So he set up the meeting, and they pulled the undercover cop over. 20 pounds of weed and 4,000 in cash is what was in the car. Now, what these guys did was they confiscated everything, and one cop stayed with the undercover cop, who they didn't know he was an undercover cop, obviously, had him in cuffs, and the other cop, didn't say which did which, drove away with the weed in the car, the 20 pounds, and gave it to a third person who is a TV character, Tim Taylor, not Tim the Two-Man Taylor from the TV show. The guy's real name was Tim Taylor. Gave him the weed. Weed was never recovered. Tim Taylor was also arrested in this and charged with a bunch of stuff. $4,000 was recovered, all marked bills. This was also all caught on videotape. This Internal Affairs set up a sting. Everything's caught on tape. They probably had a tape in the car. They were probably taping from a distance as well. All caught on tape. These guys were facing first of all, they got $1 million bail. So it doesn't say they made bail. I suspect they didn't make bail. They were facing 67 years for all these charges. They both decided to cooperate, pled guilty, ended up getting between 10 and 15 years. So that was, and this is an old story. Like I said, it went back to 2010. These guys are probably out now. Lots of stuff. I have lots of stories like that. All history stories. It's getting harder and harder to find current stories. But I have hundreds of stories that I've researched over the years, so there's plenty of stories to tell you guys that you're probably not aware about. All right, we've got a Q&A. Q&A was, this person read my book, Betrayal in Blue. And in my book, I speak about, along with grabbing money and drugs, we used to confiscate guns, weapons from people on the streets. And unfortunately, this is one of my biggest regrets. We would put them back out on the street, sell them, or give them away as favors. He wanted to know the circumstances under some of these guns. All right, so one of the main guns that have a little history to it is a 357 Magnum. Towards probably in the middle of the tour, because it was still light out, was parked on the side of the road, and I'm catching up on some paperwork. We're in between jobs, and halfway up the block, and you could see up the block because it's complete empty lots. There's no buildings on that block at all. And there's two probably late teens or early 20s males walking down the block. One of them has a purse, a pocketbook, a woman's pocketbook, and he's swinging it around like this, like an airplane propeller or a windmill, and you could see it's weighted down. I'm like, look at this fucking guy, and my partner and I are looking at him, and he keeps walking down the block, and then he makes, because he's walking down a side block, we're like this, and he's walking down a block here, and then he makes a left towards us. So now he's coming right towards the patrol car. So as he approaches the patrol car, I jump out, grab him by the back of the neck, slam him down on the hood of the car, grab the purse, kick him in the back, get the fuck out of here, and get in the car. Partner pulls off, and we go down like a block and a half. He goes, "What do you got?" And I open it up, and there's a 357 Magnum in there. So we're not looking to arrest these guys. We're not looking to make an arrest. Now I got a gun. So I end up taking the gun home. I hide it for a couple of weeks, and what I end up doing with it, or we end up doing with it, is I've spoke about Mr. Joe before. Mr. Joe owned a bodega on Blake Avenue, and Adam rented that store from him for $60,000 when they were going to do an eminent domain take. The city was going to do eminent domain takeover on his store. So it was a mutually beneficial deal for both of them. Mr. Joe was a licensed gun holder because he owned a bodega, had cash on him all the time, licensed business owner, licensed gun permit. He was robbed. His gun was taken in a robbery. All types of problems now for him to get another gun. We end up giving him the 357 for his protection, so he could protect himself and his business. Very grateful, very happy. We, took care of him like that. A couple of time goes by. I don't even know how long, maybe a couple of months, 2 months, 3 months. And we're deep into shit with Adam and Elvis now. And they're at the second or third location that we know them to be at. And this location was the spot where it was right across from Barron's original shop on Van Sicklin and Atlantic Avenue. So Elvis, who's in the documentary, is Adam's lieutenant, I guess you could say, his right-hand man. And he comes to us. He wants a weapon. He's looking to get a gun to, protect the joint. We go back to the bodega. Mike retrieves the gun from Mr. Joe, the 357, tells him we need the gun back. Mr. Joe, no argument. Yeah, it was, thank you for letting me have it for a couple, for some time being. Gives us the gun right back. We go give the gun to Elvis, and he's got it in the drug location now. So here's the history of the gun. It's already from at the point where we picked it up on its fourth person. The original kids we grabbed it from, ourselves, Mr. Joe, and now Elvis has it. So Elvis has it for a while. And now comes the time where Franklin and Coke are fucking robbing the joint. So they go up there and they have automatic weapons. I don't know what they had, MAC-10, Uzis, who knows what the fuck they had. But I know they were spraying the location, spraying the street to scare the fuck out of everyone. And when they got upstairs, Elvis has the 357 that we gave him. And in the documentary, he says Franklin put a 44 Magnum to his head. It wasn't a 44, it was a 357. It was our gun. Because when we got to the location, we were the first cars on the scene because we recognized the location when it came over the air. Elvis came right up to us and says, Franklin robbed us. He took the gun you gave me. So that's why I know it was the 357. So Franklin's off with the gun. Now it's in the fifth person's hand. Never recovered by us. I don't know what happened with that gun. Who knows? Maybe other cops grabbed it when they eventually caught Franklin. Maybe Franklin sold it. I don't fucking know. Maybe Coke had it. But that was the end of the trail, as far as I know, what happened to that gun. So that's the road trip that one gun took. Now there's multiple guns in between. Another set of guns I'll tell you about. I'm off the job now. Working with cops from another precinct. Spoke about it before. Got involved with drug dealing with them. And they were basically doing the same thing that we were doing. They weren't working with any specific drug organization, but they were doing raids on the street where they were just raiding drug locations on their own that they recognized and robbing drugs and money and weapons, whatever was in there. So they come to me one day because I'm doing drug transactions with them. I'm getting drugs from my ex-partner and selling it to these guys. So they come to me. They know I'm involved in all this, obviously, because I'm in a drug conspiracy with them. They come to me with a bunch of drugs that they sold that they couldn't move, and also 2 9mm that they grabbed from this location. So now I have a couple of deals working for me. So I put it out there that I got some guns. And, anybody's looking for guns, I got some guns to move. So this one drug dealer who's working for me, who's selling, he's usually doing an ounce or 2 a week. He says, yeah, he'll take the guns, do a meet, sell him the 2 9mm. About a month goes by, and now he also knows the kid who fucking brought everything down, Harry, who was a drug dealer. That was actually how I was introduced to this other drug dealer, through Harry. Harry introduced me to a lot of drug dealers on Long Island. So he couldn't get in touch with me, this guy I sold the guns to. So he goes to Harry because he knew Harry had a connection with me. And he gives the guns back to Harry and tells Harry he needs his money back from me because the guns don't work. Bullshit. I know the guns work. Second of all, when Harry comes to me with that, I tell him, how the fuck do I know what he did with these guns for the last month? How do I know he didn't put bodies on these guns? I'm not taking these fucking guns back. Do whatever the fuck you want with them. You're not getting money back from me. I don't give a shit. Give them back to him. He's not getting his money back. So there's 2 other guns. What happened with those? Harry walked off with them. Don't know what he did with them. So that's it. That's the tale of 3 different guns. That's what happened with them. Philly cops, one basic story, DUI, the other story, corruption, drugs, money, conspiracy, like what we were doing. That's what I got for you this week. Hope you enjoyed the story. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share this on your social media. Thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate you guys coming by and checking out these stories every time I put them up. Leave some comments in the comment section, send in some Q&As. I'll be happy to answer them. All right, thank you so much, and see you guys on the next video.